And hi, everyone. I'm Allison Horton. I've been with Search Solution Group for a little over 4 years, and I specialize in the recruitment of human resource professionals.
So this is a really exciting night for us and hopefully for all of you. This is our first ever event hosted here at Search Solution Group for women in human resources. As a firm, HR has been such a huge focus and passion for us. And over the past few months, we came to talking and realizing that there truly wasn't a group dedicated in Charlotte focusing on women in human resources, which is truly why we're all here this evening.
Yes, so some of you may know Search Solution Group, others may not. By the end of the night, we hope to say hello to everyone here. A little about us. Search Solution Group was founded 18 years ago by our CEO, Jeremy Nazo, who is hiding in the back. Jeremy, will you give everyone a quick wave, please? Thank you. Yes, so as we grew the company over the last few years, we began to build out 3 separate divisions to better specialize and focus on our clientele. I lead our executive division, which focuses on VP and C-suite level positions locally and nationally.
Dave Holtzman, who is in the back as well, he is our president of Search Solution Group. He leads our contingent direct hire division, which focuses mainly on mid-level searches across the U.S. And finally, I lead our staffing division, which specializes in contract and contract to hire searches, both here locally in Charlotte and across the nation.
Enough about us. We are going to hand it over to Spencer so that we can get started. There will be time for questions at the end, so please, if you have any, just write them down. There should be pen and paper in your gift bags. And here's your moderator, Spencer Stewart.
Sorry. No, that's okay. Thank you, ladies, so much. I'm Spencer Stoakley, and I'll be moderating the event tonight. Thank you for having us. We're really excited to be here. We've got a great lineup of panelists, and thank all of you for coming. This is an excellent turnout, and I think we'll have some good discussion today. So first off, I will introduce our esteemed guests. So first we have Suzanne on here. Hi, Suzanne.
Hi, great to be here. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming. Angela Kirkby.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Natalie Kittredge.
Hello, glad to be here.
Brenda Sandoval-Logsdon.
Hello, everyone.
And Courtney Hamlett.
Hi there, thanks for having me.
So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. We talked through a few questions that we thought might be interesting to discuss. And so the first one is, who are you and why did you decide to participate in this event? Courtney, you have the mic, so do you want to, or Brenda?
I'll go ahead and get us started. Can everyone hear me? Yes, okay. First, let me just say I'm so incredibly excited to be here. I look at the turnout and I see all these powerful women in the room, and it's just amazing, right? I think for all of us in human resources, this is why we're in it. We like people, we thrive on connecting with people, and we generally want to invest in our growth and the growth of others. So this is an incredible event. My name is Brenda Sandoval-Logsdon. I have the longest last name in the business. I try to get creative, and it has not worked out for me, so Brenda is just fine. I work on Miss Brenda, and that kind of gives me a little bit of a complex, so let's not do that here, please. So the reason why I'm in human resources, going back to what I mentioned, there is a sense for us to build a community. And I look around, and the turnout is incredible, and I think it speaks to the need for us. I think all of us know that we want to build our network. We want to see what others are doing, and we want to stay current, right? We want to look at the latest trends, and we want to bring those back to work and have those conversations with the businesses we support, and yet we miss it every time. So as early as today, I was at work talking about we need to do for others what we don't do for ourselves, right? Us in the human resources function, we talk about growth and development and investing in our careers, and I feel that sometimes we don't do that for us. And so here we are with this incredible event. I want to learn from you, and I want to learn from all of you in the room, and really let's just see what the interest is out there, and I really hope we can make this an ongoing event because there's so much value in it, and I'm just super excited.
Excellent. Hi, I'm Courtney Hamlett, and I am a talent partner at Albemarle Corporation, and I've been with them almost 4 years now, and so I am, like Brenda, very excited to be here with you this evening and agree. We normally don't do the things for ourselves that we encourage our businesses to do, development, learning, training, and I think this is really good for us just to kind of sharpen our edges, and as iron sharpens iron, we should come together and develop one another. So very excited to be here. Thank you for coming.
Hi, I'm Natalie Kittredge. I head up the HR department for InfoStripe. It's a startup company. We do road striping and road construction. I just want to give a shout out to some of the guys that decided to come and bold us out here. Yay. See what us women are doing. I actually decided to say yes to this event because I will, not to go into too much history, but I worked for, most of my network is in Denver, Colorado. I moved here 12 years ago to take a HR operations position. Go Broncos, right? I took a HR operations position with my long-term company I'd been with for 37 years. And when I got here, I kind of put my nose to the grindstone and didn't really spend any time looking outside of my role and what I was doing for the company. And then in 2018, when the company went bankrupt and eliminated the HR positions here in Charlotte, it kind of made me think about what I hadn't been doing for myself and just knowing who was out there. I mean, I didn't know any recruiters because we had a recruiting department of 30 people, so there was no need to do that. So that's when I started reaching and really starting to build my network. And that's when I met Ashley, and so it really, to be able to just say yes sometimes to these events and just know who's out there, because not only can somebody out there help you, but you can give back for, I have 37 years of experience, and I want to be able to give back and help others that maybe haven't gone through certain experiences. And we're going to talk a little bit about HR development, how you develop your careers, and I think by being here tonight, that's one of those steps.
Hey, I'm Angela Kirkby. I have about 25 years of HR experience, all in Charlotte primarily. Lots of industries, lots of different companies, some big, some small. Most recently left the organization I was in, and am looking to pursue possibly some consulting work unless Ashley or Allison say, hey, we have this great opportunity and let's talk. And that's actually how I was asked to be part of this panel, was in conversations with Ashley, who's been a great sort of partner, whether I was in different organizations throughout the years, so we kind of reconnected. So glad to be here. It's truly, and I know this sounds sort of cliche-ish. It's not. It's what you know is important, but who you know is super important too. Especially when you're at a point in your career trying to figure out what's the next step and who are the people that you want to help. I see some former teammates of mine here. Thanks for coming. So I will help them because they've always been there, been on my teams or been on teams close to me. I want to help them. I want my network to help me to help them. And again, the more knowledgeable HR women and men that we have out there making a difference will make our practice even better.
Hey everybody, my name is Suzanne and thanks again for Search Solutions for putting this on. I think it's a great idea. For the past 12 years, I've been the Director of Human Resources for Piedmont Plastics, which is a performance plastics distribution company headquartered here in Charlotte. We're probably, I think, the largest privately held performance plastics distribution company in the U.S. We have 48 locations as of today, and we're in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. I have probably just under 30 years of experience in HR. I've worked for a variety of different industries, some nonprofits, some unionized environments. I'm originally from Houston, moved to the East Coast in '99, and worked in some different locations, first New Jersey, then DC, and then New York. And in 2006, my husband and I moved from Brooklyn to Charlotte. So we've been calling Charlotte home now for about 13 and a half years and just love it here. One of the reasons I wanted to participate was, well, a few different reasons, really. The first is just to take advantage of the networking opportunity. Since I've been in Charlotte, I've been to several HR functions, and I just haven't really found one that I felt connected with that was focusing on the things I was interested in. I think another reason is some of the topics that we're talking about, particularly the topic of pay equity. I'm really interested to talk about that and to hear what you guys have to say about it.
Okay, great. Thank you, ladies. And again, I'm Spencer Stoakley. I've worked in human resources for 20 plus years. My entire career started out in New York, did a little stint in London, but the majority of my career has been here in Charlotte. And as some of the other panelists have said, just really happy to have this opportunity to be here with you all. I think that you hear a lot about Charlotte. People will say, well, it's a larger city, but it has sort of a small town feel. And I find that to be the case when I'm looking for people to network with, or when I meet people. Usually there's some person that you have in common, or you know someone who works where they've worked, or it's actually pretty easy to find that, but you just need the opportunity to make those connections. So I think this is a fun and kind of easy way to meet a lot of different people, and I'm sure you guys have probably already made some connections before and will continue to do so after. So with that, we'll go to our next question. What should women who are trying to accelerate their career in HR do?
Me first?
You've got the mic, so we'll start with you, Suzanne.
Well, honestly, I think it all boils down to finding a good place to work, a place where the company leadership really focuses on the people and treating each other fairly. Like a lot of you, I've worked at a lot of different places, learned a lot, expanded my skill set, got some really good experiences, but I always had that feeling that I'm going to be here for a few years and then I'll move on because really just isn't the right fit for me. Well, I've been really lucky to find that fit in Piedmont Plastics because they really do care about their employees, and training and development is a big deal, and so we really support that. But personally, I think it's also important in all the jobs that I've had to learn as much as I can about that job, and not just the HR perspective, but learn about the business, learn about what the company strategy is, because at some point that skill is going to be really important to you if you're in a leadership position. And then I would say also, I don't believe you can be overeducated. Excuse me, I got my MBA in finance several years ago, and that really made me much more marketable and expanded my job opportunities. So I also think it's important for us to keep up to date on trends in our industry, not only for your personal development, but as an HR person, it's really our responsibility. Our companies are depending on us to keep up to date on those things.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, absolutely. Andrew.
So I love how you kicked off by finding that organization that really values the culture and the people. I think it's important too, if you're early in your career or HR is your passion, that you also be really selective, right? Find that leadership team that not only looks after the people, but understands what HR is and values it, has knowledge of that space. Sometimes you might have leaders who are specialized in one area but don't have the breadth. And so find that space where you feel most comfortable. You can fill in some of the gaps. The leadership accepts it and welcomes that. I think that's super important. And then the other thing I would say is as a newer, HR person, take those complex growth opportunities, right? What are those? What are those assignments that maybe no one really wants to do that's going to be more hours or more time, but those will truly push you forward, get your name out there, and men do it all the time. No offense, men, but men do it all the time. And in fact, you find that many times they're offered those opportunities before women are. So raise your hand, take those stretch or complex growth opportunities, and that will help you stand out, I think.
So I can only speak from experience. I don't have the secret sauce, but I think mine is very, very simple, and my advice would be the same to HR, non-HR, male, female, it doesn't matter. It's just a few really simple things. I like how you put yourself out there and make sure you're putting yourself in challenging roles. And I think for me, it's show up, be engaged, roll up your sleeves, get it done. I usually use a different word, but I don't want to offend anybody here. But get it done and be a strong leader and do what you got to do to help move the company along. And I can honestly say 99.9% of the time for me, that has worked for me. And it's just being there, working hard, moving the company forward. And sometimes it's unfunctionalizing yourself and not being HR for a moment, right? But just being a really strong leader and helping the company move along.
All those things are great, and I absolutely echo those. I would just add that for me personally, something that I feel has really kind of been a game changer for me is to be more intentional about the things that I do. And one of those things has been seeking mentorships, whether formal or informally. And it used to be earlier in my career, I'd be like, oh, I don't want to ask them. They don't have time to help me, or they're so busy. But that is the greatest compliment that you can give someone, is to say, I really admire you. I think you have great expertise in this field, whether they're in HR or something else. It might be good to just get a business perspective outside of HR. So that's something that has always really helped me, is kind of having those mentors strategically placed in my life to be my sounding boards and to help me kind of work through things. So I would definitely encourage and advise that.
I will say yes to everything that was already said. I will also speak to experience, right? And I will tell you, I've been with my current company right at 2 years. I actually celebrated my 2-year anniversary 10 days ago or so. Not that I'm counting, but I am kind of, sort of. I work for a manufacturing company. I've been in the manufacturing universe for about 10 years or so, and I absolutely love it because I found my passion. So I will say, take that as number one, right? Find what you're truly passionate about. And yes, you are passionate about human resources, right? Because that's the path that you chose for yourself, or maybe you landed into it an accident, right, where you find yourself helping out the recruiters like I did. Put yourself out there too, right? I think too many times we tend to be function-centric, meaning we feel that we can only expand our network within HR and that's about it. And that's not the case. I think sometimes we can be our toughest critic because we sit back thinking, I don't want to do it, I'm afraid. What if they look at me and say, well, you're in human resources, what do you know about finance, right? What do you know about IT? But we have ideas because we support human capital. Our investment is growing people. And people truly is what matters most for these businesses. Without employees, we don't have a business. And so a lot of times, we don't take those chances because we're afraid that we're going to fail or we're not going to be the best at it. And that's absolutely okay. Because for every time you make a mistake, you're going to learn from it. And then there's a very good chance that as you build that network, they're going to recognize your name, and they're going to say, oh, yeah, that was Brenda. She came into that one meeting, and you know what? She had some good ideas. Next time, they may go to you directly and say, hey, can you help us on this project? And every one of those assignments is going to make a name for yourself. Definitely take the opportunities to have a mentor. And to your point, which I think it's incredible, I have 32 facilities that I support across the U.S. 32 facilities and 2,000 employees or so. But the reality is, I will make time every single time I have an HR rep coming my way and asking for help. Because I look back to when I started my career, and I look back to those individuals that took time out of their incredibly busy day to help me out. And I put myself in their shoes. And I think that speaks to stay humble, right? Don't get caught up with a title. And that will be something else that has worked for me. Don't look at, well, what's my next title going to be? I want to be a director. I want to be a VP. Take the opportunity for the growth and the challenges that is giving you every single time. And when you have someone reaching out to you, take it as a compliment. Take it as, you know what, they see something in me that they want to learn from, and I'm going to do it. Because that's where I was 10 years ago, right? I had incredible mentors, people that invested in my growth and my career. And really, that's how we make our function stronger, and that's how we get a seat at the table. So take up all those opportunities for sure.
Excellent. Thank you, ladies. Yeah, but, I agree, of course, with everything that you guys have said. I think that's really helpful. And Brenda, in my experience, I found that when, earlier on in my career, I felt like I needed to know everything. And so I didn't want to ask the finance question or the quality question or whatever, because I thought that I would look stupid for not knowing the answer. But I got over that somewhere along the way. And, what I have found is people really enjoy telling you about what they do. So we're really lucky in HR to kind of have connections across the organization, and that's a great way to leverage kind of adding value and skill to ourselves as well as to the organization. Okay, anyone have any other comments on that?
Just one more thing, and it kind of ties to what you said. My team's probably heard this 1,000 times, but be the business person in the room. You have all this HR experience, some of you many years. I'm hearing all the years of experience across the table, but be that business person. If you don't know, go get that degree or ask those questions, because that actually gives you more credibility, right? We want our HR function and our practice to stand up on its own, but that whole picture altogether really matters. So I think that's a combination of what everyone said.
Excellent. Great. Thank you. On to our next question. How are HR functions incorporating mental health into their company plans? Is there any liability if they don't consider mental health?
I'll take this
Brenda?
one because this is one that I'm very passionate about, so let me just put it out there. And the reason why is this. I find myself, you look at the trends and you look at what's happening with the mental health overall, right? First, let's not label it as mental health. Let's label it as health. Because the reality is physical, emotional health, it's all, you're trying to be healthy and stay healthy. And what we do at work every day and the message that we give our businesses is critical. And the message I give my business is remove the mental health from the label. Think about it as health overall. In other words, when you have an employee that broke an arm, you don't question why they need to be off work because you see it. You realize they have a broken arm, therefore they need to be off work because they can't come in. But when you have an employee that wants to tell you they have a mental health ailment or an issue, then the questions come in. And that's where we need to make a difference. We need to help the business understand that mental is just as physical. It's just a different organ. And it happens to be an organ you don't see because it's inside your head. Quite literally, it's your brain, right? And so I tell people, when you send that message and you start questioning individuals that are coming to you just like they would when they have a broken arm or they have high blood pressure, then we're making a mistake, because what we're telling employees is, you know what? I don't necessarily believe that's as important as your physical health. And therefore, we're either at risk of them coming in, not performing at their best, or realizing my employee didn't care. I went to them, I tried to talk to them, and they sent me away. So help drive that message. The Employee Assistance Programs, EAP, it's one of the most underutilized benefits that we have, and it shouldn't be. And yet everyone talks about it during open enrollment, and after open enrollment, we forget about it. And this is where we can make an impact to the business and, more importantly, to our employees. Remind them that that truly is something that can help them, and there is absolutely okay to make that call and say, hey, I need help. Because it turns out life is tough, and I just need some help, and I want to talk to a professional, and you can do it, and it's totally okay. So I think that's definitely something where we can help our business and our employees, and something that I'm very passionate about, as you might have picked up on it.
If I could just add to that, one of the studies I think that was done last year across all generations, when people had to rank the concern and focus they wanted their employers to put on certain topics, well-being, mental stability, mental health in the workplace actually ranked above diversity, ranked above equality, ranked above sustainability. And those are all topics I know you all are focused on in your jobs and we spend a lot of time on. So it's a big darn deal, and it's something that we as HR professionals, need to focus on. I think organizations, if they're not there, should start to take steps towards awareness, as you talked about. How do you get it to be a comfortable topic? How do you give research and education and training to employees and also the managers? Because the managers, day in, day out, they need to know how to handle this as well. We can give the employee who's going through it or their teammate all the information, but if manager doesn't know, it's not gonna help. Programs, policies, right? So there's a whole stigma around mental illness. There's bullying around this. How do we do away with that? So that's around policies and programs we put in place. And a big one, I think, is, the whole balance, the work-life balance. Think of the stress that people have. It's a huge driver for people taking time off work, needing to leave the office, anxiety, those types of things. So how are you as an HR professional in your workplace making changes there? And then we all have that beloved end of year sort of, employee satisfaction survey that people take. Well, engagement. So we need to really look at that, because if trends are bad, what's driving that? Is it stress level? Are people burning out? That's super important. And then what tools are we giving people to even self-diagnose? Sometimes it's so private they don't even want to talk about it. Well, what are we giving them so they can go do an online self-assessment, see where they are, and ask for help, and giving them the resources. So those are things that all companies are in different places of that, but I feel like we need to all take steps and encourage our leaders to be more aware.
I would agree, and I would just add that like Brenda, I'm very passionate about this topic because it's just a different organ, but it is all about wellness and health, and we should view it the same way. And I'm very proud to share that Albemarle Corporation had a celebration of World Mental Health Day, which World Mental Health Day is October 10th, for those of you that may be interested. And we actually had a wellness fair that provided vendors to come in with counseling services. We actually had the animal shelter come and bring puppies for us to pet and kind of be stress relief. We had a masseuse there. We also had True Rest, which is a float spa, which there's many studies that have been done about how that can really impact your mental wellness. And then also EAP is so important and so overlooked, so I would absolutely echo that. And I think just establishing and fostering an atmosphere of care for folks to feel like they can speak up and say, I feel this way, what can I do? I think that's always really key in these types of situations, just to know that they feel comfortable in doing that. And you were talking about studies, and as we were preparing for Mental Health Day, it was very interesting because there is a direct correlation between mental health or overall wellness, however you would like to frame it, and job performance. And so, I think it's very important for us, being the people side of the business, to make sure that we're bringing this to the attention and bringing that awareness and education to our leadership within our organizations, because it may be something that they're not aware of. And so with that, I think it's very important that we continue these conversations, we stop that stigma, and we continue to educate folks on that true wellness. Because in those studies that have been conducted, I think last year it was $1 billion in cost to U.S. companies that was related to mental health illness or some type of issue. So just something to throw out there.
How do I follow that?
Oh, everyone go work for her.
Oh my, I want puppies. I think you had mentioned that I think the last 2 or 3 forums that I've sat in regarding benefits and where companies are headed, what direction, well-being has been at the top of everybody's list, and that seems to be the new topic. And it encompasses so many things. It's not, just the mental health. It's your career, and it's your finances, and it's all those things that make you be a healthy human being. And I think I'm in a very cool situation because we are a startup company, right? So we're hearing all this stuff, and as we start to build, and we just got a benefit platform this last open enrollment, and so as we're starting to build it, we can be thinking about all these really cool things that companies are out there doing and incorporate those. But I do think too, we're kind of taking a holistic view of, where do people spend most of their day? They spend it at work. And so do you have puppies? Do you have cornhole? Do you have, and those are kind of silly things, but what if I have a manager that bullies me and is mean and treats me poorly? So if we have pockets of bad leaders in the organization, we need to exit them out because they're not helping that well-being of our employee base. So
That's good. One thing I will add, I don't think any of us really address the liability piece. I know everybody kind of wants to shy away from that, but we're in HR. We know that anything and everything can be risk and liability, and so I think our job as HR professionals is to provide a safe and comfortable environment for our employees, whatever that means. And sometimes we do need to make reasonable accommodations to make sure that that comfort level is there. So always something to keep in mind. I'm not going to throw out law or anything like that, but anything and everything when you're dealing with people and their well-being, it can always be a risk or liability.
I think it's really important, like everyone has said, that your leadership understand that mental health issues are just as important and as prevalent as physical issues. In my reading, what I found was said that 25% of employees or people are currently going through some sort of mental health challenge. So, it's a real thing, but unfortunately our society has placed a stigma on it, and just talking about it is sometimes taboo. I think it's important to have a affordable, comprehensive mental health benefits, but just as important is to make sure that your work environment isn't contributing to stress or causing burnout. That's one thing that HR people should really be aware of, and something that we have the ability to do something about is to make sure that our managers are treating employees with respect and dignity, and realizing that they do have lives and things going on outside of work. At my company, we've done several things with regard to mental health. Like most everybody, we have an employee assistance program that provides free counseling. We have company-paid disability leave for mental health issues. We have generous PTO. We've instituted flexible work schedules, and just this year we started parental bonding leave for spouses when they have a child, a newborn, or adopted a child. But I think there's probably more we could do in that area. The things that I listed are probably a lot of the things that you guys are already doing as well. So I would like to focus on that next year. We do surveys where we ask questions of employees, really specific questions about what they think about their benefits. And so I'd like to go out and find out a little bit more about that. For example, more free sessions with the EAP counselor. We just started this year with this new app. It's called 98.6. I don't know if you guys are using that already, but you can text for health issues and immediately get assistance from a doctor. I'd like to see if there's an app out there for mental health as well. So maybe in the Q&A, if you guys have some suggestions, I'd like to hear about that.
Okay, great. Thank you. And just to add to that, several of you mentioned the EAP, and I would encourage all of you to utilize your EAP personally, so that you kind of understand what the process is. Several years ago, I worked for a company that was acquired, and almost daily people were coming into my office saying that they were stressed out and they had a lot of anxiety over all of the changes. And so at the end of those conversations, I always said, well, also we have the EAP, they have free counseling. And, I was okay with what was going on, but I had a light bulb moment one day, and I said, well, I'm telling everyone to do this, so I should try it out. So I scheduled a session with a counselor. It was amazing, and I loved it, and it was free. And after that, when people came into my office, I was able to say, contact the EAP. I met with a counselor, and you could just see over their face some of that stigma or fear about it was alleviated, because I think people thought, well, okay, if she would do it, I can do it. So, just leverage all the resources. And I love the comments on new technology can probably help us in some of those areas. Thank you, ladies. Okay, our next question, pay equality. How do you make sure that the company is set up to do the right thing on an ongoing basis as far as pay equality?
So I think to start with, which is always easier said than done, but is to make the right offer and to make sure you have a good partnership with your businesses, to make sure you've conducted some pay audits and things of that nature, that you're reviewing those numbers. I think is extremely important. And making that right offer, making sure you start everyone out on the right foot. Also monitoring merit increases as well as those come up off cycle at times. We know that to be the case, so make sure that we're monitoring those. And then when change is needed after we receive those results from the audit, or we understand that there happens to be a discrepancy there, bringing in communications and our partners in change management and those kinds of things to make those changes and adjustments within the organization.
I will absolutely mirror you make the right offer every time. I think we know this is the economy right now, the marketplace. We are fighting for strong talent. I think that's true for all industries. And so when I partner with my business, and as I talk to hiring managers, and I'm in manufacturing, right? So it's a little different where we can't compete with pharma or tech companies, but the reality is what we are able to do is stay current in the market trends. And so as you make an offer, think about the quality of talent that you want to bring in. And the reality is you want to upgrade your talent, and you want people to be excited to join your organization. And that very first time you connect with them, whether it's during the talent acquisition process, right? As you interview, as you select them for interviews and you bring them in, you want to make sure they realize, one, that they're valued, and two, that we are going to pay for their talent. And you do that with that offer letter. And so when we extend that offer letter, there's thought that goes behind it, right? We want to do it right the first time. Because when you landed your candidate that everyone agrees upon and everyone is excited to bring in, and you send an offer letter that's below market, and I realize there's going to be challenges where you're not always going to be able to top that market, price tag, but you still can do it the right way. And think about the message you're sending to that candidate, right? Because that offer letter at that particular time is what matters most. And so do you want the candidate to look at your offer letter and say, you know what, this is nowhere near what I'm looking for? Or they really, truly want me to join their company, and this is what they're paying me. And so really take time to invest in those market trends. And then once they're with your organization, continue to do internal equity. Right? Stay current. And I can't say that enough, because I think too many times once they're part of your organization, you fail to look at, okay, what's the market paying? And you don't start paying attention until people leave. And once they leave, you're thinking, wait, why are they leaving? Well, because we probably missed the mark and we didn't take the time to look at the trends. And that's an easy fix, right? Work with your business, partner with your business, and let them see the value of retaining strong talent. And then if that doesn't work, show them how much it costs to bring in new employees. And if you're like my industry, safety is paramount. So when you bring in a new employee, there's a very good chance they don't know the safety protocols. And so bring all that into the conversation, and that can go a long way.
Okay. Like I mentioned, the pay equity question, that was one of the reasons I wanted to participate on the panel. I just thought that was really interesting. Way back when I was in graduate school, I remember writing a paper about pay inequality for women and minorities. And at that time, I think it was probably 1998 or so, women were paid on an average of 75 cents on the dollar compared to men. So I just looked up the statistic today. In 2020, it's an average of 82 cents to the dollar. So think about it. That's 22 years, and we got a 7 cents raise. Okay, so definitely there is still a problem. And remember that 82 cents is an average. For women of color, that is actually a much worse problem. So once again, I think it goes back to the leadership of your organization. If you are working for a company that truly believes in treating people fairly, it's not that difficult to get these practices in place. One of the things that we do, well, first, I think it's important that you make sure you get good market data, and that's not always easy to get. We work with our insurance broker, Logsdon, and they're very good at providing a 24-hour turnaround for questions that we have on salary ranges for positions or cost of labor in a geographic area. So that has helped me quite a bit to have that information. It's not just my opinion, it's what's out there in the marketplace. And then periodically throughout the year, I'll go through and I'll look to see, make sure there's no one that's below the salary range. And our leadership also understands the importance of that, and we immediately make changes when we see that. So if you're working for a company that doesn't always see things that way, it could be an uphill battle. And there's a lot of companies out there that talk about, how they put people first and how they treat people. But often that's PR, and if the company actually does walk the talk, then I think you're in a much better position. Unfortunately, there's some companies out there that don't learn that lesson until they have to go through some kind of litigation. But another thing I wanted to share is that I think it's a good practice every year to go through and look at your salary data with regard to women and minorities. But before you do that, you should involve your legal counsel, because that information is discoverable, and you don't want to be in the position to have to turn that over to a third party. Okay?
I love that you said it starts, with the company and the beliefs. And so I think seeing at your leadership level, what does diversity look like, right? So it gets back to, you can't push something like this forward if you can't even demonstrate it in your leadership, or your culture isn't one of an inclusive environment, right? Inclusive beliefs. I think it starts at the top. I think a lot of companies are still struggling with equal pay for equal roles, and so then you throw the gender piece on top of it. Many companies are significantly behind. So I think that we're starting to see some changes here. I think in the HR practice, everything you said about how you bring people into the organization, even the job descriptions, I'm thinking of, where we are today. You guys have probably seen a lot of the job descriptions that have significantly male adjectives, right? So how do we change that? How do we guide people? It's not wrong, but how do we move women more towards that, or how do we find more neutral verbiage even in that when we bring people in on the front end? And then when you look at our philosophies, declaring that, right? If this is what we're going to stand for, be brave and say it, and say what that really means. Put some metrics to it. See the talent flows, who's come through the door, who's exited voluntarily, not, who's been promoted. Look at the diversity, look at the gender, really track the data, work with your legal partners. Obviously, everything is discoverable. I think that when you look at succession planning and you have those talent planning conversations, and you look at promotional opportunities for people, a lot of times women are promoted or advanced based on performance and not necessarily potential, and we need to help change that a little bit as well. And it's not just women, but also minorities. And then I think we also need to, I talked about those, those complex assignments in the past. Many times men are given those. It's changed in so many organizations, but a lot of times companies still tend to go there first. So again, how do we start to change that? How do we as male and female HR representation for our company force ourselves to see and things differently, and maybe drive the change in that way as well?
I took a little different approach on this question and took it from more of a woman in the workforce, and looking at my history and where I've done right or done wrong as far as pay equity personally, right? I think starting to focus, I thought we had gotten better, but those facts are really interesting because I like, in the back of my mind, I like to think we've gotten better at it. But I think focusing on, instead of pay equality, focusing on how do we teach people to negotiate better and to understand their worth, right? So how do you enter in, how do you exit, and make really smart negotiating decisions? And when you're in a company, how do you put yourself out there and make sure that you're getting compensated for what you are worth? And so my recommendation would be personally know your worth and don't settle.
Excellent. Great. Thank you, ladies. Very good commentary and a lot of good things to think about as well. So that's our last topic that we have. So now we'll move over to Q&A, and I think, Olivia, do you have a mic? So if anyone has a question, raise your hand. We'll bring the mic to you and get started that way.
Sure. My name is Martha Thibault. So I have a couple of comments, questions on the pay equality subject. First of all, everybody talked about making the right offer. And being aware of market trends and understanding what the value of a particular job is not that difficult. You can do the market trends, market analysis, and know what the job is valued at. And so make the right offer. Where you run into a problem at times is with compression, where you have the person who's been there 20 years and they're at an equal job, but they're making so much less because of their 3.5% increase over 20 years. So that's one comment, is how do you address that? The other thing is regarding women and the pay inequality with women. So what you spoke about the last, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, but the knowing your worth, it is a proven fact, and I don't have the statistics in front of me, but that women ask for less than men. If you have a man and a woman being hired for the same job, the woman is 90% of the time going to ask for less than the man would ask for that job. So being in HR and making those compensation decisions, how do you justify that? Part of your job for the company is to, they're only asking for 80,000, that's great. We'll give her 80,000, that's what she's asking for. But the male counterpart is asking for 95. And okay, it's going to be a little difficult, but we can give him 95. So, part of you is, you're a representative of the company and you're worried about being fair to the company. And if you can get somebody for less and that's all they want, that's awesome. But how do you balance that with the pay inequality?
And I'll just say, I've always been very interested in having the data so that I know what the role is worth, and it's never black and white, right? But there probably have been some surprise people that I've dealt with who have maybe asked for 80, and I've said to the hiring manager, this person, they're highly qualified, they're gonna come in at the low end, they're gonna find out about it. If we give them 5,000 more, that's more in line with the data. And to what you two were saying earlier, Courtney and Brenda, make a good offer. I think it does go back to that in many cases, and I'm happy to pay more. I never approached it as, I can get this person for a cheap price. If I feel that I want to hire them for the company, then I want to pay them accordingly. So that's one approach.
Martha, right?
Yes.
Excellent question. Yes, so I have very recently gone through, it's been going on for about a year or so. We went through an exercise of looking at current employees. And I can only speak from personal experience. But the worst mistake you can make is bringing new people to your organization and paying them more than the employees that have been there 5, 10, 15 years. that is one of the worst messages you can send. Because let's be honest, people talk, right? I'm in manufacturing, so I have manufacturing facilities, reconditioning facilities, and the floor talks. And I can sit here and tell you, this is confidential, this is not to be shared, and now 30 minutes later, here comes the employee. I just talked to such and such, and they just got a raise. Where's my raise? Hey, we're humans, it happens, right? So when we go through these exercises of internal equity, before you make a move of the external marketplace, look at your existing employees. And it's simple, right? Let's be practical. Those employees already know the job. Their worth is in their knowledge. Those employees have been there, done it. And the worst mistake you can say and make is to bring in someone that makes more and then look at them and say, I just came in and I get paid $2 more than you do. And by the way, I don't know how to do the job. You're gonna train me. Terrible.
It becomes such like a deck of cards. Or
Absolutely.
I can't think of the right.
It's a domino effect. And next thing you know, yes, and so.
Because you give this one the raise, and then that one gets it, and then that
Yeah.
one gets, and it becomes, and then you get the leadership of the company who
Mm-hmm.
says, wait a minute, back up, hold on, we can't give everybody a
Mhm,
raise. We
mhm.
just aren't in a
Yeah,
financial position
so
to
I
do
can
it.
tell you how I've done it, right? And again, this is only my personal experience. I do it by location, right? So we become location specific. And the reason why it matters is you have to look at the local market. What my facilities pay in North Carolina is not what we pay in California or Illinois or Texas, right? Every place is driven by a certain industry, and that really sets the rates. So the first thing you do is let's look at the ranges. We know what this particular position pays in this area. Now let's look at our employees and see what they're getting paid, the existing employees. And then, yes, this is where being that true HR business partner comes into place. Because what you want to bring to the business is actual data. Finance cares about the numbers. Great that you're all excited, Brenda, about giving them more money. Show me the data.
Right.
What happens if we don't do this? What happens is you're at risk of losing 10, 20 people. And when you lose them, it's going to cost you $100,000. Oh, and by the way, safety incidents are going to go up because we're bringing people that don't know our business or our machines, et cetera, our equipment. Now, back to when you bring in new people, it goes to that partnership with the hiring manager when before you make that offer, you already had that conversation to say, this is what we're looking for. This is the level of talent we need. Let's talk about the range. Here's the market data that shows me this job pays, I don't know, $80,000, whatever the job happens to be. I'm not even gonna bring gender into the conversation. I'm looking at talent. Whether I bring a female or a male candidate, I'm bringing talent. And the talent is gonna cost $80,000 to $100,000. And when we find that talent, we already established the range. So I already know going in, I'm gonna pay $80,000 to $100,000. This is where recruiters need to make sure that you're having those very healthy, candid conversations. So there's no surprises along the way, right? So you don't bring in someone that you absolutely fell in love with and they're $20,000 above your range. Because now you wasted their time and you wasted your time. Oh, and your business is not gonna be happy, right? Because they thought they landed the unicorn and the unicorn cost too much money, right? So you have that conversation, you establish the range, and now you have your candidate, and hopefully all of the discussions leading up to that offer letter are landing you at the same spot. And it's not about male or female, it's about bringing strong talent to your business. And that's how we do it. I can't speak for others, but that's how we do it in my company.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I think we have time for one more question. So,
Good evening. My name is Jessica Gilbert, and actually I don't have a question, I have a comment. I appreciate the response to mental wellness in the workplace. I had an opportunity, and maybe some of you did too, a couple of weeks ago, the Charlotte area SHRM chapter hosted a meeting where the topic was on mental wellness. And my 3 takeaways, which I wanted to put out in addition to what you all shared, is one, that as HR professionals, that we have an opportunity, whatever you're thinking about right now, when you think of mental illness and what mental illness and what that looks like, is probably broader than that, and that it shows up a lot differently than what sometimes we generally think mental illness looks like in the workplace. 2, from a liability standpoint, there are things that we as HR professionals probably should be more equipped on how to ask and determine, or to kind of better gauge what might be behaviors or signs as we offer services. And because we know sometimes that people are going through things that may not make their way to us as HR, but to equip our managers to kind of understand what and how to ask appropriate questions so that they can guide them to their appropriate resources. Thirdly, EAP, as you all know, is more than the counseling aspect. So that's just one resource. There are local resources, both for people who need the service, but there are also local resources for where we can get trained on what to ask and what to look for. I don't have those specifics with me. I wasn't prepared to speak on this, but I do want to say that there are resources available. So it's not always isolated to whatever we immediately think mental illness looks like. There are ways that we can most appropriately ask questions and look for signs, and how we can make sure our management know how to look for that. And then thirdly, that, you know, more than just national institutions, that there are things right here in Charlotte and surrounding area to help your organization and individuals as you see fit.
Excellent, thank you. You can be on the panel next time. That was very helpful. Okay, well, thank you guys so much. I think we'll spend a little bit more time mixing and mingling, and I'll hand it over to Allison to close things out.
Thank you, Spencer, and thank you everyone for joining us this evening. Please give our panel a round of applause.
All right, so we have about 20 or so more minutes until the deadline, but grab some food, please grab some more drinks. Last call's around 2 a.m., so just make your way out. But seriously, thank you guys for coming. If you didn't get a gift bag on your way in, please grab one on your way out. Really important, there's a card in there. On that card is a link to the LinkedIn group that we have created for everybody to keep in touch between events, to talk about topics, really anything and everything goes within reason. So please join. Any and all feedback is welcome. We hope you guys had a good time, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.